Jerome Bettis joining us, the Hall of Fame running back, and won a Super Bowl, 6 Pro Bowls, and 10th overall pick by the Rams out of Notre Dame back in 1993. Bussy, good to have you back on. I want to play something that your former quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, had to say, talking about the Steeler tradition. Then I'll get your reaction to this. Here's Ben Roethlisberger.
I felt that certain guys on the team aren't in it for the team, they're in it for themselves. Well, now some of the guys on the team are saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So maybe I wasn't too far off when I said that. But
like a little football
I know
prophet.
that I'm retired. I just don't, I'm not in the locker room. I get it. But it just feels like that. It just feels like that's something that's kind of been lost on this team a little bit. It feels like the Steeler way is just not – there just wasn't that Steeler – tradition passed down, and you have it on defense, don't get me wrong, but you don't have it on offense right now, and it's just making it really hard. You're not seeing, in my opinion, the toughness on offense. But I just feel like people aren't afraid to play the Pittsburgh Steelers anymore for whatever that is. But maybe the tradition of the Pittsburgh Steelers is done. Maybe it needs to be formed a new kind of way. I don't know.
It's Ben Roethlisberger, his football and podcast. All right, Jerome, what do you think Ben is getting at?
Well, I think he's getting at the fact that, for one, they haven't needed a quarterback for the last, 14, 15 years, whatever it was, he was there. So there was a lot of continuity between kind of eras, if you will. So I don't necessarily agree with that. I think they don't have the leadership on offense. You got a lot of young guys on offense trying to find their way. And that's what you're seeing. It's not that it's not the still away, it's gone. It's just that you just don't have the consistency offensively. And that's what you're seeing out there. And that's the problem. The leadership, unfortunately, got a young quarterback. If he's not in the game, then obviously who's leading the way? From an offensive line perspective, you don't have those personalities that's stepping up and saying, hey, I'm going to be a leader of this offense. I'm going to push us forward. And then obviously you have the wide receiver issues that you're hearing about publicly. And so what happens is you just don't have the leadership on offense. On defense, you do. And you heard Ben talk about the leadership on defense. You just don't have it on offense, and I think that's what they're missing.
Okay, how would you feel if you were the running back for the Steelers and your wide receiver, George Pickens, is not blocking anybody on a run where you can score a touchdown, and the guy he's supposed to be blocking ends up at the tackle? What would you say?
I would pull him to the side and say, come on, man, listen, we all in this together. If you want me to block that linebacker when it's a blitz so he can get the ball to you, I want you to do the same for me. So you want to express to them the importance of, each and every play, right? And so, yeah, you can come down on him in the media, but I promise you that's not going to turn his switch on. It's going to be you putting your arm around him and say, hey, man, listen, we all in this together. And if you look good, we all look good. If you look bad, we all look bad. That's the bottom line. And I think that's part of the leadership that's missing. You just don't have that guy to say, hey, man, come here. Listen, here's the deal.
What's Mike Tomlin's role in all of this? You're saying the players got to be accountable.
So it's a fine line. The head coach, it's hard for him to be the buddy too, right? So he's got to be the heavy in this particular role. You need someone internally in that locker room that can pull him aside and say, listen, man, I'm in the same boat that you're in. I'm with you. And so the head coach can't necessarily play that role. That's why you need that strong leader offensively that can pull him aside and say, look, man, we all getting hammered here. So here's the deal. We all got to put more effort in. We all have to do this. And the key word is we. And when you don't have that person saying we, that's where it falls apart.
I started to think about running backs when I knew you were going to be on, that at some point it's going to be hard to quantify who's a Hall of Famer, because it's probably going to be more about receptions than it's going to be about yards. Like Christian McCaffrey. Is he a Hall of Famer?
Wow. It's, what? That's a tough one. Early in his career, unfortunately, he didn't put up the same numbers that he's putting up now. Obviously injury and that kind of thing. So with him, you got to look at longevity. You got to look at, will he be able to do this for 10, 12 years so that we can look at his body of work and say, absolutely.
Okay, but who's playing now that you think is going to the Hall of Fame at running back? Is Derrick Henry a Hall of Famer right now?
He still has to do more. I think everybody still has to do more. That's the thing. It's not a clear science one. I can promise you that. So that's part of the issue. But you also have to lead your team from a successful standpoint. Now, he's made some, I think, AFC Championship games or something like that. So that bodes well for him. So that's part of all of that they look at. So, for me to say, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer, I'd be doing the Hall of Famer disservice. If I said he's not, I'd be doing the player disservice. So I just think they're on the road if they have to just continue with that success for a long period of time.
But they're not going to get to 12,000 rushing yards. That's just not going to happen anymore. And it used to be if you got to 10,000, you got into the Hall of Fame. And I don't know if we go back to maybe that number, that's the magical number, and you throw in, yards from scrimmage with receptions.
Yeah, here's I think is how we have to look at it. You see the receivers, the goal line has been moved. And I say that because I've got a guy whose his goal line has been moved, and Hines Ward. He played in an era where we ran the football, right? But he was one of the best in that era. He did it all. And then at the end of his era, the goal line moved because the goalpost moved, rather, because now you got all these guys, catching 150, 120 balls a year. Well, he was in an era where when you caught 85 balls a year, that put you at the top of the league. So now his numbers are skewed because he kind of was in both of those eras. So I think what you look at with the running back is going to be a different era in terms of the numbers. So you're going to look at it a different way, and you're going to look at those numbers a different way because it is a passing era.
Hines Ward is a Hall of Famer. And you know what I would do if I'm Mike Tomlin? I ask Hines Ward to come in to teach my wide receivers how to be tough and be multidimensional. Not just come out there. What is it about diva receivers in Pittsburgh uniform? I'm like, what's going on here? That's not a diva town.
It's not. It's a blue collar town with people who love to roll their sleeves up and go to work. So yeah, it's an issue. It's a concern. But that's one of those, because you don't have that guy to say, hey man, listen, get your ass in gear. Let's go, man.
Bring in Hines Ward. Just bring him in. Or just show video of Hines Ward and just say, that's all you got to show.
That's what I would do. No doubt about it.
Did Hines ever hit you accidentally?
He hit me all the time. We always had a little thing we would do that, about touchdowns, whoever scored the touchdown, right? And so we would yell, no, if he was going in or if I was going in. And it was the funniest thing because everybody thought we hated each other, but it was this little thing that we used to do, trying to beat each other to touchdown. So there was maybe a time or two where he said he was trying to help push me in the end zone. He was just giving me a shot.
He's Jerome Bettis. By the way, Jerome has a blue and gold golf classic that takes place in the Hamptons next May 20th and 21st. So the event benefits Notre Dame Endowment and the Bus Stops Here Foundation. More information, blueandgoldclassic.com. Would you have switched positions coming into the NFL? If you were coming out of Notre Dame now, would you be drafted high as a running back?
Wow, that's a great. I don't think so. Well, I think I would be drafted, but not the 10th pick in the draft like I have been, because I think right now you have to be so dynamic catching the football. I think that becomes part of your DNA. It has to be. And when you look at the guys who've been drafted high, that's a big part of what they do. So I think when we look at Christian McCaffrey, he's kind of identified what the new running back should look like, right? What he should be, what characteristics he should have. But I will say this, what people don't really notice about Christian McCaffrey, and I've watched him ever since he was in Carolina, he's a really good inside runner. I watched him when he was at Stanford. He is, and so a lot of people think because of his size that, you know, he's a really good in between the tackles runner. And I think that's what you have to be to play in the NFL. You can't be a guy that plays on the edge. You've got to be a guy who is a downhill in between the tackle guy in order to have that kind of success. You don't have to be the biggest guy in the world, but you've got to know how to work your way on the football field in between the tackles.
And I thought that hurt Reggie Bush, that he wasn't a between the tackles kind of running back. And McCaffrey's built different than Reggie Bush, but Reggie wasn't a between the tackles running back.
That's right. And in the NFL, the difference here is in college, you're faster than, you know, a lot of the guys on the edge, because a lot of those guys won't make it to the NFL, right? Well, in the NFL, every guy deserves to be there, and every guy has that talent. So you're not going to outrun somebody to the edge, to the corner. You gotta get in. You go inside to get outside, and that's what the running backs in the NFL. That's the biggest difference from college to pro. You have to learn. You have to run inside to get outside. If you don't do that, it won't ever happen. You got to be able to make a guy miss, and I think when you look at the great running backs, they've always had the ability to make a guy miss, because the guy is going to be where he's supposed to be. That's the NFL. These guys are on defense. They're talented. They're disciplined. So they're going to be there. You got to be able to make a miss. And so I think when you look at Christian McCaffrey, he does that exceptionally well. Or you got to be able to run him over like Derrick Henry.